also having the high-end facilities of vessels. We have two research vessels. One is Sindhu Sadhana and Sindhu Circle. Sindhu Sadhana is highly sophisticated vessel, which Dr. Pawan Kumar is going to talk about in more detail, so I'm not going to. These are the all-weather ships, particularly the Sindhu Sadhana. You can go out at any time of the year, including the at this time of the year monsoon as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, on Sindhu Sadhana, when we go, it can go out for 45 days at a stretch, and Sadhana is developed or built in such a way that when you collect the sample, you should have a facility to at least process your sample while at sea. So we have required facilities on board while you are at sea to collect the sample and pre-processing whatever that is required. Okay? Right from the sediment, water collection, sediment collection, and the microbial microbes, for example, or the organisms, so-called zooplankton or phytoplankton. So we have all those instrumentation on board. Okay? This vessel is around 80 meter long, and the smaller one is of 60 meters. Next slide, please. Yeah, as I said, and we have Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal is at the northern to the north of Indian Ocean. Okay? So we are on the west coast, and the east coast we have a Bay of Bengal. Okay? And it's very unique. Indian Ocean is very unique compared to the Atlantic Pacific and the Atlantic. The difference is the Pacific and Atlantic, they have a pole-to-pole connection. For example, see South Pole and North Pole. This is the Atlantic and this is the Pacific. But Indian Ocean is the landlocked. Okay, it's like three sides has been landlocked. So that is the reason why it is so unique, and that's the reason we have a seasonality. But you don't see such seasonality in other areas. So seasons means that you have a northeast monsoon, southwest monsoon, and you can imagine without there was no season, there were no what you call monsoons, which is like agriculture, for example, directly connected with seasonal change in the wind, seasonal change in the currents. So it has ultimately affects the life in the ocean. So that is what it matters. In terms of at this time you have a lot of upwelling, so deep water coming up. So that supports the plants of the sea called phytoplankton. Okay? So, and the importance of phytoplankton, I just want to bring it in one sentence to everywhere. These are invisible plants plants of the Earth system science, I will say. And all of us are sitting over here are using the services. Every second breath that we take comes from the plants of the sea. We don't even appreciate it, but we don't see them. Imagine if they stop their machinery, what would be the state as if we would be at higher altitude. So these are the plants of the sea, which is they are giving us the services which we are using it. It's like the amount of oxygen that is being produced by them is comparable or even more than that of the terrestrial plants. So terrestrial plants are huge, but these are tiny. But they are multiplying at a very fast rate. They are multiplying 1 to 2 to 4 in an hour's time or a day's time. But the plants, it's like growing in a year's time. So that's how they are able to compete with the terrestrial plant. Okay, and the ocean, that is one part, uniqueness, and oceans are able to see there's so much of burning of fossil fuel happens. Ultimately, the CO2 gets into the atmosphere, and ocean acts as a buffer. And buffer, why I'm saying buffer, is 80% of the CO2 or the heat that is being emitted into the atmosphere is being captured by the ocean. Similarly, the CO2, it is 50 times more CO2 is being sequestered or captured into the ocean. So the ocean plays a very important role in regulating in the long term it's a climate, I will say. Okay, so that and imagine the amount of untreated water. Maybe we have a vast coastline, you don't know where the untreated water or the nitrogenous product are coming. If they're leached into into the water, what will happen? That's called eutrophication, the unnecessary plant growth, and that has a consequences. And imagine the amount of plastic that is being released. So out of 3 million tons that is being generated, nearly 2 million gets into the ocean. So that has a detrimental effect, because ultimately it gets degraded to some extent, which is being eaten by the smaller organism and ultimately gets into the fish, and we then intake it. So this is how, though it is a very unique system, but the population that is living along the coastline, for example, is more than 4 millions and billions. So fishes that are there. So ultimately, it's affecting the rest of the life, including the humans. Okay. So my point is, it has to be handled sensitively, and we need to sensitize the people the importance of this coastline, coastal regions. Next slide, please.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What's the status as of now?
What?
What's the status as of now? Findings that you have related to the pollution of?
Yeah, pollution in terms of nutrient flux, fertilizers, or pollution in terms of plastic, or pollution of whatever. In terms of what?
No, in terms of the plastic that is down there.
Yeah, in fact, I'll cover that, but nonetheless, the question came, I can skip over that. See, if you go...
Coming to that.
Yeah, okay, that's, meaning that is at later stage. I'll address it. Plastic is now becoming a nuisance hazard. Okay, there are different types of plastic which are not so easily degradable. Right? But when it gets into the simple example, I'll give it, the mangroves, which are where a lot of this plastic gets accumulated, and mangroves are supposed to be sequestering the carbon to a large extent. Now you have the amount of life that is prevailing over there. And if you dump the plastic, what will happen to those life which has a role to play in carbon sequestration? So this is just the food for thought. Yeah. So NIO has been right from the came into picture. These are some of the pulse of the. So I call it as the pulse of the ocean. Has to be there should be some parameters to measure, and these are some of the parameters that we measure, and we come to the conclusion: what is the health of the ocean, or health of the issue, or health of the river, or health of the coastal region. The parameters like plants. These are the phytoplanktons and the plants of the ocean. The middlemen are the zooplankton. Like in the terrestrial environment, you have goats, plants, and goats. Then these are the zooplankton and microbes. Let me tell you, these microbes. Half of the biomass on this earth, is being dominated by the microbes that are living in the water. Just click. I must have. There are in an ml. If you take a water, you may see hardly any organisms or the particles. But if you put it on a microscope, you will see that there are 10 lakhs of viruses, millions of viruses, lakhs of bacteria, thousands of we call it as the eukaryotes. It's all small. So it's like the soup of material that you get it in an ml of water. So that's how they have been the most life in the ocean or marine environment is microscopic. So that is the point that I will. So there are bottom dwelling organisms, some worms, others tiny worms, but they are doing the job. I will just highlight, for example, phytoplanktons. As I said, the oxygen that is being produced. They are the one which is giving us the 50% of oxygen. Middlemen. So what they do, whatever the organic matter that is being produced by the phytoplankton, they transfer to the higher trophic level, like fish. Whereas the microbes, whatever the organic matter which has not been consumed by the higher trophic level, it has to sink. But that is being remineralized, and those nitrogens which has been bound through the process of photosynthesis is being broken down again, supplied to the phytoplankton. So they help in remineralizing. And benthos is the one, it helps in the sediments Again, the remineralization process also helps directly into the fisheries. So each of them has their own role and they are interconnected. So yeah, that's next slide, please. Yeah, this is the technology. Also, we address the technology in the sense we have instruments developed. We have a melanin pigment, UV pigments which have been identified from the sponges. Must have seen the sponges in the coast. They have a range of microbes, and some of them are known to produce the melanin. That is also been addressed. Then some, one of the group is also working on biofertilizers from silage, fish silage. The 50% of the fish biomass is like either discarded. So that can be reutilized in form of making it into fertilizers. That's the process has been identified, worked out at NIO, and it's already been demonstrated. These are just few of the technologies that we have. We have a range of other technologies as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, we also have a program ballast water management at the institute. So what we have done is there are 12 major ports plus 200 plus minor ports as well, all around the coastline. And as I said, most of the trade is happening to the major trade is happening to the sea. That means those vessels which are coming from wherever, they also carry the water with them as so-called a ballast for stabilizing. So once the cargo is offloaded, they are discarded. But the point is, when they are discarding, when they are taking the ballast, they also may carry an organism from elsewhere and they will dump over here. And if the conditions to be suitable, which are invasive species, may cause a nuisance. So there are some may be very toxic. Some of the plants.
But anywhere the alarming situation has arisen.
Definitely. I mean, I can tell you in 80s there were the mortalities that have been reported along the Tamil Nadu coast. Kerala there was a 96 or 97 reports. I'll tell you the phytoplankton. These are small. These are the organisms. These are small organisms. They produce the toxins, toxins or neurotoxins, which are 10,000 more lethal than cyanide. Can you imagine that? Cyanide. So even like 7 to 16 microgram per kg is sufficient for us to have breathlessness or any of the side effects. So that is, and these are the we don't get them much over here, the blooms, but we never know in future. But therefore, we need to have an inventory of the organisms that are already prevailing in our coastal waters. So that is what has been addressed by under the ballast water. So they did the survey. We know what are the organisms that are present, whether it's plant or animal or microbes, and we know that what are the invasive species that could come from elsewhere. So therefore, this has been surveyed, and some sort of coast card has been made. So which is there with the ministry. And as I said, there are blooms. It can happen, and when some blooms comes, not all that have been consumed by the fish. Leftover, it reaches into the coastal region, into the deep. So when it reaches into this organic matter, so the bacteria want to work on it, and to break down the organic matter, they need oxygen. They have to strip. They need oxygen to break down. So when in the process, they take up the oxygen from the water, and water becomes devoid of oxygen. So you have a low oxygen, hypoxia we call it. Sometimes it's so massive that it will be totally anoxic. And then you can imagine hardly anybody life will prevail in that. In this time of the year, you may see the fishes coming in the catching a bumper catch. But what happens? That's all the offshore region will have a low oxygens coming. Either it may come from the offshore, or it may be because of some of the fertilizers which have been unutilized, gets washed into the coastal region, which is supporting unwanted blooms in the coastal region. And that organic matter settles and aggravates the process. You get the point? So, because it's in the coastal world, it's well within the 10 meters or 20 meters. So, these are the works that has been going. Next slide, please. Yeah, we also a group working on non-living resources, right from the coast to the deep ocean. As I said, NIO has expertise to address all aspects of ocean sciences, including the non-living resources that you get it in the even at up to a depth of 6,000 meters, for example. So if you go from the shore to the deep, at the shore less than 20 to 50 meters, you have all those mineral deposits like alunite, monzite, zircon. Then if you go slightly deeper, more than 50 meters, also 50 to 200 meters, you have phosphates deposits. And these are being used for fertilizers, for example. And if you go beyond that, there are gas hydrates. This gas hydrates is also one of the major program of the institute, we have a large reserves which has been identified. Our group of Goan may be talking about this, and we are not tapping it. This huge reserve is there, but it can be at use at later stage. But we have mapped and captured. So, gas hydrate. We have, if you go a deeper depth, you have polymetallic nodules. These nodules, NIO was the first one to discover these nodules from the Central Indian Ocean in 1980s, and NIO has a ownership of 75,000 square meters at its disposal, and that contains the polymetallic nodule.